Hi, this is Blanca Blanco, and you're watching the Breaking Down show.
Yes, the Break It Down show brings you Blanca Blanco. And she is, well, gosh, what are you not? That's probably the shorter list. You're a model, an actress, and now an author with your book. And I want to get into the book. It's called Breaking the Mold. It's available on Amazon. I'll put the link up here in a moment. But the thing I think is most interesting is you've lived the story. So I always say that my favorite American is the next one. Like whoever's going to like risk it all, take their family,
Mhm.
go live in someone's garage for a couple of years with no air conditioning, no running water, all the things like you went through. It's the best of who we are. Yes, it's hard. Yes, and poverty, and yes, all these things. But that undaunted attitude of I'm going to do this is never going to define me. Talk about what that means, not about you personally, but when you see Americans and other people choosing to come here, it makes my heart full in knowing that we have a place full of opportunity. How do you see that?
Well, I just feel that challenges make us stronger, not weaker. And I think that with when people try to come the to the US or other countries because they want to better their lives, that takes a lot of courage and determination to be able to go from maybe having a job that is more secure, and then you come to the US and you work in a job where you're not respected, you don't have benefits, you are making minimum wage, and you're discriminated sometimes because of being ethnic, and you still stay at it to be able to provide for your children or your family just in order to change the cycle of poverty.
Can a family who's an immigrant family, can they come and reliably break that cycle of poverty, or is it sort of 50-50? What are your thoughts like on, because it's one thing to be like resolute that we're going to do this, but life gets in the way. There's all kinds of obstacles, whether it's ethnicity or just the knowledge, the path out to do what you have to do. How reliably can people do this to break that mold?
Well, definitely it takes a lot to break the mold. There's so many ingredients that need to be there in order to be able to break, the cycle. But I know my family, we were able to break the cycle, and every one of us had to work very hard to be able to do that. And so it was not easy, like like you said, and this is what I haven't breaking the mold. We live in the garage for 2 years, and we didn't have no heating, no hot water. We didn't even have a tub or a shower. We would shower with, I will ask a neighbor or an uncle, or I would like brush my teeth at the school. But even
Right.
though and then we will be at the food bank and Salvation Army, we will definitely, we were still contributing to the society as far as paying taxes. Like we're buying food at the grocery store with not much food, but we were buying something. And so, even though we experienced a lot of challenges, we still kept at it. We didn't just give up as a family. Or I know for me, I knew that in order to break the cycle of poverty, I needed to get an education. And that's what I focused on, because I saw the limitations we had with my parents not having a degree in the US. We had the language barrier, and we also had the cultural differences, but we with time we learned to integrate. I don't mean to just forget about your identity, because you got to have your strong identity in order for you to be able to work, like accept another culture or another ideas from the new environment. You got to have a strong foundation. So like my mom, she always would say, like, we always have to not forget our language, in Spanish, and also you got to learn English, because that's what you need so you can have better opportunities. So we were very realistic about keeping our identity, but at the same time being able to function in this society and have a better life. So that's what my book is about. It's about overcoming hardships and
Yeah.
how my dreams, they were not just dreams, but I had to take action. We all have dreams, but the main thing is what steps are you taking? Because otherwise it's just talk.
Yeah, it is just talk. And behind your head are a couple of degrees, at least it looks like from here, that
Yeah.
that prove what you're saying, and you have them behind your head in part because it represents that foundation that you have. Sure, model, sure, fashion icon, actress, busy actress, but you also have you didn't just get a bachelor's. You went out and got a master's degree, and this is not a simple path. I mean, that's a lot of time, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of effort, and in social work, I mean, you talk about jumping off a cliff and hoping this thing works out. People who do social work at the master level, that's a calling, and you don't expect to be
Mhm.
wealthy. You expect to make a difference. Talk about that decision for you and that path.
Yeah, well, as a child, I knew I wanted to be an actress, but I also knew that I needed to have a strong foundation. I was not gonna just move to Los Angeles without having my foundation. I was very strong about that. But I always had a thing about helping others, be in service of others and be um I always like listen to my friends, how give advice, and I just thought, psychology and social work is perfect fit for me because that's just like it feeds my soul, with helping others and understanding the human mind and behavior. I always been like a nerd like that. I always like those type of shows where you're investigating cases, and so that was a fit. And but I had my passion was to do characters, and so I'm able to incorporate everything that I have in my background, my educational background, with my characters, and then also working in different group dynamics here. I'm able to work well with different groups. And so I think that people ask me, oh, so did you just change your mind after you graduated? I'm like, no, that was always the plan. Like I have my mind, I had things already in place what I was gonna do, but it just took me the longer route to come to LA. Like I did the non-traditional thing, but then I just moved here feeling confident. Like if this doesn't work out, at least I have a master's degree. Like there's nothing to lose.
Yeah, you can always work, especially in your field. You'll always find work. You guys lived in a couple of places that you wouldn't pick as someone who's going to become, a model. You guys lived in
Yeah,
Watsonville,
I
and then in the
know.
middle of Washington, not in Seattle, not even in Tacoma or Spokane. You in the middle, like in not even near like Yakima, which is in the middle of nowhere. Uh,
I know. I was in a small town with one stoplight. And I had big dreams of being an actress in Hollywood. And I would tell my teachers or friends when I was in fifth grade, oh, yes, when I'm older, I'm going to be an actress too. And I'm going to go be in Hollywood. And they would just laugh at me. Oh,
yeah,
sure. Yeah. Like I have like ripped clothes from the Salvation Army. I live in the garage. And then I will tell teachers my dreams, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be an actress too. And they're like, well, let's talk about realistic expectations. And I'm like, oh, so then I realized, okay, I kind of come across like a little cuckoo when I say that kind of stuff because I live in a garage. So I just thought, okay, I'm just going to show actions instead of just, the thoughts, you know, show actions and that will be better for me.
well, I mean, there's a lot of little girls that want to be actresses, singers, vets, right? That's the
Yeah.
standard thing, and the teachers, the parents, they owe it to you to give you the opportunity, but also say, all right, everybody says that. What makes you different? So, were actions, is that what made you different, or was it something else?
Well, in there to a lot of changes. Like I knew that we were different. We didn't have resources like other people did. And I couldn't change what was happening in my life, but I could remain in control of my perception. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I mean, I'm here. I was just listening, and it broke up a little bit on the way, but I got what you're saying. The the other thing is, gosh, you're so busy as an actress. Do you Do you feel like, huh?
Oh, I lost you. I didn't finish the conversation because we both went, like it went black.
Yeah. Your
So,
signal's a little bit scrambled. Okay, go ahead.
okay, so what I was saying was that I knew that I couldn't change what was happening, but that I could remain in control of my perception. I could change the things that are negative and see them in a positive way, reframing, removing the, like, I would remember thinking, well, I have a lot of things that are going bad in my life, but I could just treat it as, instead of a barrier, it has like a negative, like a heavy weight. When you think of barriers or something that is a problem, it's so much weight. But when I felt, I saw it as a challenge, I was able to feel more determined to change things, like I more energy or power to move forward. So I began changing the negative thoughts into positive, and every day I had to do that, to remind myself, also positive affirmations, remind myself that I was strong, that it was not my fault, that everything that is happening, I could change in the future. The only way I knew that I could change things was through actions. I had to take action. So that means I had to work harder. When I didn't feel like going to school because I was being bullied, I had to push myself to go in the school bus. Even I would be crying, in the school bus, but I went there. I
Yeah.
focused on things I could control, like I could work on my studying, to make sure I get good grades. I could volunteer in the community to make sure I develop leadership skills. I did all these things that I could do day by day, small steps in order to gain to have control.
That control's important, but it's born in something. I mean, obviously you've got it in you, but is this from your parents? How do you get that? Look, every little kid wants to quit going to school. Whether you get bullied, it sucks. Every little kid goes through this, right? But you find a way to push through. How important were your parents in this? And gosh, they got to be so busy raising a bunch of kids and working, right? I mean, how do you pick up this powerful lesson so young?
I had a drive. Like I just as a little kid, I didn't give up easily. I always, I guess maybe because I was the oldest girl, I would help, raise my siblings. But I was definitely very mature for my age. Like I always felt older than my age.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like, I feel better. I feel like almost as balanced. But so I think that what gave me the motivation was my situation. I knew I didn't want that in my life. I wanted to break the cycle of poverty. I didn't want, you know I knew, you know the people that were living like me didn't do much with their future. Like I would see that around me, and that would scare me. So
Mm.
living in the garage, living in the trailer park was a big motivator to push forward.
I got an airplane flying overhead, so I was trying to mute out of it. Then okay, I get that. How much? Look, I mean, you get undergrad degree, post grad degree. You don't have to go that far. You don't have to push that hard. How much of that was also done to show your siblings that, hey, this is how you break out of here? Because not look, if there are 6 or 7 or 8 of you, however many people are in the house, you're all different people, including your parents. Every single one of you is different. So not every sibling has the same kind of drive. How much, and you're the oldest, so how much of that burden did you take on to say, this is what I have to do to show my siblings, this is how we do this is how we break the cycle?
Well, I know for me, it wasn't the actions that I took, it wasn't for external validation. It was for me to feel secure within myself, because I knew that growing up, that was something that we didn't have opportunities. And I wanted to be able to have a life with opportunities, and I wanted to be able to have choices. And I knew that that was important to me.
No, that's great. And then you decide to write a book. I don't know if you know this or not. If you looked at your acting resume, you're busy. You're a busy lady.
Yeah, but like like I'm always trying to find positive in every situation. During the lockdown, I was watching Netflix and I thought, okay, I want to see more stories of hope. We need more of that on now, especially with so much poverty and abuse and everything is of the unknown, the fear. And I would see that a lot when I work in hospice, the unknown and how much anxiety and depression it creates for people, for the patient and the families. And I was seeing that on a bigger scale all over the world,
Mhm.
like on the news. And I just thought, well, nothing is opened. I'm not flying anywhere soon. There's nothing I'm doing. So now it's time for me to share my childhood
Yeah.
because I just thought I need to write something that it will inspire others. Yeah, I do share about the struggles, but also how I dealt with them and the steps that I took every day to feel valued and secure. And also I have tools and techniques there that I use, like reframing, positive thinking, and positive affirmations, like simple things that we kind of forget, but they really make a difference. I know me as a child, that saved me. I never saw a therapist as a child. I had no clue what I was doing, as far as like what is this changing the negative or positive. How did I learn that? Nobody taught me. I just felt it. That's how I felt good when I saw myself on when I changed like perception, from
Yeah.
negative to positive. And then once I was in college, I realized I was using cognitive behavioral therapy on myself. And so I guess, definitely I wanted to have the path that I wanted to select, not a path that was there for me, that was given to me based on tradition or based on the lifestyle. I wanted to create my own path.
You have. You have.
Mhm.
You look so again. I know you're like, yeah, it was pandemic. I wrote a book, but I'm looking at your IMDb page, and you have been busy nonstop since, let's call it. I mean, your first role was in 2008, according to IMDb.
Mhm.
You have basically been nonstop with multiple roles every year since 2010. And that means that before you were even graduated from college, you were already going, I'm taking that role, I'm taking that role, I'm taking that role, and modeling. Is Do you know how to relax?
Oh yeah, I'm a very relaxed person. I like to, that's important to me to start my day, do some, walk to the gym or do some physical activity just for it's my me time. I enjoy going to get massages, go to the spa, go hiking. I enjoy reading and just like hanging out with my bunny. I have a bunny. I like to have things like calm because that gives me the energy when I'm dealing with, problem solving in my career. I'm
Yeah.
able to be grounded and be able to take whatever I need to work on. So I'm definitely like, prepared for it.
It sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like you're good at organizing yourself. Is this a
Mhm.
family trait? I mean, is there something I'm kind of looking for, like where this comes from? I get that you're motivated, but you're so advanced in terms of how you
Well,
see everything.
yeah, my mom used to say that. Like, where did you get that?
Yeah.
Because, for example, once we had like a closet, I would organize my clothes in color coded. Like I wanted all the pinks there, the white there. And how did I don't know. I just always like things to be in order. And like I would know when my sisters would wear my clothes and they wouldn't tell me because they would put it in the wrong color section. And then they would be, how did you know? What? How I'm like, I'm not telling you my secret. I just know you wore this black top. And so they were, just stuff like that. But yeah, I've been very structured, I guess. And it's a skill you develop. And when you, for example, like when I moved to college, my first quarter, I had 3 jobs.
Wow.
So because I was paying for my expenses and I was helping my parents financially too. And so I had to be organized. I couldn't just procrastinate and be like, I feel like taking off for the day.
Yeah.
I had a job in the morning before my classes, and then I had my classes, and then I had my second job, and then I had to go back to the library, and then my evening job. Every day the same. Maybe I did laundry on Sundays. And
Yeah.
so I kind of, it's definitely like, even though I was organized already, that made me even more, gave me more organizational skills, because I couldn't really waste my time.
Yeah.
And I still added, fun, for me, learning was a way of, becoming, having personal growth too, because I'm learning so much. And then I always been like very into school. So
Mm.
I was able to feel like I had rewards, and so eventually, I got a lot of scholarships, but eventually I didn't have to work so much, in other jobs, and I could just focus on school. But even though no matter how many jobs I had my first 2 years, I still kept the 4.0. No excuses for me. I'm just like, okay, that means I have to work harder than other people. So whenever I see people having it, like I would have, friends that they don't have to work at all, and then they would be, oh, I don't feel like studying. Oh, I think I'm taking a day if I have a headache. I just thought, well, that's nice. I can take a break like that, but sometimes the people that do that type of behavior, they learn skills later in life where they're not as determined. And I see like the actions from the people that didn't do that, they were not very structured. I see like the outcome. Not all of them, but I do see, because you just learn to be more flexible with not pushing your full potential. Like, whatever, just whatever happens.
While you're doing all this college stuff and getting your 4.0 and having your 3 jobs, you're also landing roles. That means you're
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
and this isn't back in the old. This is back in the olden days. Not really olden days, but it's just,
yeah, but I understand. Back when I was young, in
yeah.
the
And so like today, you can literally grab your iPhone and do an audition reel and send it in, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, great," and you can do a lot of this remotely. That wasn't the case 10 years ago. I mean, it was starting to.
Oh yeah, I had to drive somewhere. I
Yeah,
had to, yeah. Like I would go when I moved to Los Angeles. I had already graduated. I earned my degrees, and I moved to LA. And I realized my first year, wow, like, well, and then my first month, I realized I need to get a real job, because this is it's a slow process. And I did so much research coming to LA. I came with I didn't know anyone in the industry. I had no family. That I'm the only one that is in the entertainment industry. So I just moved, and I read a lot about what do I need to do to be successful in this business. And so then I learned, I need to get an agent, I need to get a manager, I need to get a publicist, you need to promote this. Like I began asking a lot of questions, and I would take workshops. I still do. Like during the pandemic, I enrolled at UCLA acting program, just because I thought, well, I should just take classes or something. Everything is closed, and so I just always like learning new things, um, and so I just went into work in hospice, and I said for 4 years I did that type of work, so I could be able to fund um, my career as an actress. But that job really, my role in hospice was to prepare the patient, to guide them through the end of life process. And it was very stressful, because who wants to see someone there's no more hope, they're gonna pass. So that was for me challenging, but I was very good at my job, and I help a lot of families and patients. And I learned a lot. It regrounded me about the importance of being in the moment, because I realized I've been in the moment, but also I'm focusing on overachiever, I'm an overachiever, which is, it's good to have so many goals and to do them, but we just never know when is the last day either. And so I pretty much just learned how to stay present and not think too much of the future or the past. And because I was thankful I was breathing with no pain, that I could wake up and I don't wake up with the terminal diagnosis in my that I know. And I just thought, it just kind of opened my eyes, and I had some personal growth. And so, and then also I think it prepared me because years later, this summer, my mom passed away and she went on hospice care. So I was able to, and I have this in my book too. I have a section on grief and loss and the steps that I took. And so definitely I needed to do that type of work to be able to manage and help my siblings during the process that we went through that was very difficult over the summer. But it wasn't COVID related. People ask me, was it COVID? No, she had a heart failure. But it was we had to do with the COVID stuff because the hospitals wouldn't allow us to be there. And when you're diagnosed someone terminal, you want like your family to be there. But then with COVID, all these rules and policies. So I felt, I understood a lot of what happened to, with the world, about people not being able to be in the hospital when somebody's having a baby or somebody is, has a different condition not related to COVID. And that's usually when you're in the hospital, that's when you need more support. And so I just thought I'm gonna include this chapter, even though it was very raw and vulnerable. I remember I typed it on my way to Paris, and in the plane. And I remember typing it and just thinking like, well, I'm arriving there. I'm gonna be a mess because it's been so emotional. This whole 15 hours of typing, and then just really. But I just thought I could share what is helping me to guide, helping me through this process. So I think that everything that, my book is definitely different from what I normally portray, because normally I'm very professional. I have my, I'm able to manage my public life and my private life. Like I'm able to have boundaries in both. And I just feel that my book, I'm an open book. And I had a lot of anxiety before I released the book. Like I'm like, oh my God, I don't know, maybe I should not release it. It's too much, my childhood, like what I went through emotionally, physically. But then I thought, well, every chapter, even though it's kind of a lot of challenges, a lot of traumas, but it has hope and courage every chapter. So you're not gonna feel like, oh God, yeah, it is overwhelming to see somebody could go through so much, but also it is inspiring that the steps that I took and that helped me get through it. So that's what I wanted for my book. I wanted to share with my viewers, with my fans, with whoever reads my book, is that the traumas makes us stronger. Like it gives us so much growth, because if it wasn't for the traumas, I don't think I would have known how much drive I had, or how much more resilient I was, and or like to what degree I was able of overcoming.
I love that. I mean, everything you said, just talking about dealing with adversity, I don't want to say that you're so mature, because that doesn't do service to what you've built in your life. But like I lost my brother in October. He had a lot of mental problems and ultimately concluded his own life. But for him, it was a relief from the pain and the lack of sleep and all these other things. And it's hugely emotional, as you can imagine. And I wrote about it, and I'm still writing about it. But when you put these words out there, other people all of a sudden start to recognize and empathize, and they're like, "Oh my God, when you said this captures what I felt when my so and so passed." And it's not just cathartic for us; it's cathartic for the people who identify with that, who are dealing with grief. And you don't once you put it out, you don't get to control who receives it, when they receive it, how they receive it. But it does give people an opportunity to better understand maybe their own grief in some way, or to be able to share it more. It's a beautiful thing that you do, and it's not easy. But I'm proud of you. Not that you need me to be proud of you, but I'm proud of you for doing it, because it'd be easier to not put that to watch some Netflix on the international flight going to Paris. And think about, I'm going to walk up and down the Champs Elysees, and but no, you're like, I'm going to put in some work because I got free time.
Yeah. Well, and definitely it was very therapeutic for me, and the whole like the grief thing, it's like the hard thing is the disconnection, you know, when the person is no longer there. So grief is like, it's just love with nowhere to go. Like that person is not there to receive it. So that was like, I started typing about that, like how the feelings that I was going through. And I thought, well, you know, my book is gonna be like a journal, I guess. Like a lot of information, but then also a lot of tools
Yeah.
and just like um it's for anyone. It doesn't mean that you have to be, you know, you had a dream of going being an actress, or you
Yeah.
can be anything. It's about life. It's about like the life lessons and the struggles, and also like the roller coaster journey, but you know, the not to quit, you know.
Yeah.
You just keep moving forward and break the problem down into small units. When you have a problem, like it's overwhelming, so you just break it into little steps, so that way you can manage it.
This is Blanca Blanco, and her book is called Breaking the Mold. You can get it on Amazon. There's the link there on the page. If you're listening on the podcast side, there'll be a link in the show notes. And just in general, if you want to support the Break It Down show, we actually have a store where you have all of our shirts are out. You can always go there. That link here, I'll put that up now. And again, if you're watching, just go to breakitdownshow.com. You'll find all that stuff. Subscribe on YouTube, all of these things. When you're writing this book, this is part memoir, but it sounds like with your professional background and dealing with grief and thing, you probably have some citations, because this is partly an academic work too, because it turns out you know what the hell you're talking about when it comes to grief and all of these. I mean, like, you're actually credentialed, not just someone saying my life was hard and here's how I did it. You know what you're doing.
Well, one of yeah, my book, the foreword was written by my professor. It was definitely, it's a beautiful foreword that he wrote. I was very, you know, honored that he was able to do that. But also I was able to incorporate my research when I was in college, and also since, you know, my book changed in the section of grief, because in that time I didn't expect my mom to pass away. Like, it was like she was involved in the process of me writing my book. We would share that, I will let her know I'm on chapter 20, I'm on chapter 30, and then she passed away before chapter, 40. You know, it happened so fast. So that I was, able to incorporate that instead of just you know not writing my book. But I think that, definitely I was able to, see what I went through in hospice when I was helping other families. And, one of the things when it comes to grief and loss is that people assume that you're going to go through stages, like you start with depression, shock, anxiety, and then you move up to acceptance. But it doesn't work like that. That's like an old school, because you could be happy and then sad at the same time. And you could be like, I finally accept, it's clear that she's no longer here. But then a month later, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe she's gone. So it is not linear. And that's what I share in my book, with my experience of grief. And also I have at the end of my book reference of Elizabeth Kubler. She was the founder of the steps for loss and grief.
Yeah.
But that's like something just to give you like a guide, but it's not something that is linear. Emotions are not linear.
Yeah.
It's just like, it doesn't work like that. It's not mechanical. It's definitely, I experienced so many emotions at once, intense, and I wanted to, in my book, being able to share that with the grief and loss.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I took some classes in death and dying in college, and you have to know about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross to talk intelligently about it. And when my brother passed, the same month, I also found my birth father and 3 new siblings. We're all half siblings in our little group here. So my brother Eric dies, and I pick up this whole new family. And so there was this concurrent cycle of, grief with all of the, whatever the emotions show up, and, all of a sudden I'm angry, all of a sudden, whatever, I've accepted it. And then on to, no, not really. There's more to come. There's a joy process that goes in the same thing. And because I grew up I'm a product of the 60s. And so my dad wasn't around, and there is all the same emotions. There's some anger on, like, why didn't we do this a long time ago? Why did he leave? Why didn't I step forward and take, you can have all of that, but you also have the joy of having these new siblings, and uncertainty, because you're like, I don't want to bug these people. They're all adults, but we all want to know each other. And so you had these concurrent processes. Talk about confusing and emotionally like crazy. It was wild. It was a wild ride.
Yeah, it's definitely it is, you go through life. That's life, like life is all about like processing feelings and to being able to stay, the whole idea is to stay balanced, but it doesn't happen like that. Like we all go through ups and downs because that's the way life works. And so yeah, and just learning when you're feeling like things are going downhill, just knowing when you already feel like you hit bottom, there's only one more way, and you gotta go up. So just knowing that that's the way it works. So you go up and down, and then that's the way it works. Is like that. It's never gonna be in the same linear, like it's gonna be up and down like a roller coaster.
The hospice side of things, I've been waiting to talk about this with you because it's an important part of who you are, and it must have powerful like information towards how you act. I mean, it's one thing to show up and be like, the beautiful Latina detective who's got a little bit of an accent. Okay, great. There's enough roles, but you are pulling from a different place when you are an immigrant, poverty, and then the reality of hospice. There's a book by a doctor named Atul Gawande, and he talks about how we are terrible at approaching our own mortality, our parents' mortality, and everything. We make these decisions quite often out of a fear of losing somebody who's in effect really already gone. You have cancer. We can try this experimental treatment. Maybe it'll give you some extra length in your life. And we're all desperate to hold on to this person. And he's like, you guys, we got to figure out a better way to do this instead of spending $200,000 on extending your life miserably for 3 months. Let's work on figuring out what the right decision is. How do you have quality of life and be able to ultimately let go if you have to? And he puts a lot of praise on the hospice people, and everybody I know who's been through that process, with a loved one that they were losing, they've always just raved about how great you all are at dealing with it. And it must just inform you tremendously on not living in the moment and forgetting about the future, but just putting into perspective the things, because like with your mom, it's fast, she's alive, she's well, and then she's gone. It's like, how will I act differently in the future?
Yeah, definitely. It happened really fast, and you're never prepared. Like you always, you realize that, no matter how much training I had, like, with working with hospice patients, I now it was me facing it, with my family, and it was from a different perspective. I knew the steps that were gonna happen, and that's why I just felt I was more realistic.
Yeah.
Which was kind of like, sometimes I wish I didn't have all the knowledge about it, so I can just pretend that maybe there's gonna be a hope.
Yeah.
So like, I know my mom, when the doctor told her that she had like a couple of weeks, a couple of months maybe, but that's being too nice. That's what he said. And I was like, everybody, I did help. I advocate for her to see what are the options that we can do, because you do want to make sure you explore all those options before you go home, because once you go home, you can go back to the hospital. It's already, you're on hospice. And so all the options were not there. So I had to talk with my mom, and she knew that since I had this type of work, she could have a conversation with me.
Right.
And I said, what do you want to do? And then she's like, I want to go home. And that meant that she's going to go home and pass away. I said, okay. So I said, what, can I help? Okay, and then she's like, can you help me with some stuff I need to help me with? I'm like, yeah. So we did her wishes. I went and I got a lawyer. I did all the things that she needed help with. And I had a few siblings that were still in denial or they were not really accepting of the reality. But the other ones, they knew that what was happening. So definitely I was able to help her accomplish her goals before she passed, and we were there holding her hand.
Yeah.
So it was definitely I grew a lot from that experience. And it's definitely, grief is a lifetime process. It's never gonna get, like, you have good days and bad days, but it is, with time, it's like it's just manageable. You learn to carry the weight differently, but it doesn't mean you will stop loving the person.
Yeah. When my brother passed, we got the official call. He didn't quite pass right away, but it took a few hours. But it wasn't. It was a surprise, but it was not. It was less of a surprise, more of a shock. It was like, okay, because I knew he was in serious trouble. He had made previous attempts, and we were trying to get him through, but also, and I had to do my own therapy to prevent my own suicidal ideation. And so my therapist and I were talking about how I should approach this with him, and he and I talked about it. And we were able to talk through a lot of it in advance, in case you always hope, but in case something happens. So I was pretty prepared, and I've experienced a lot of death in my life because of my previous job. But you're not ready for the phone call. When the phone call comes, it's like at least for me, in this time, all my emotions shut down, and I'm like, I don't actually feel a thing. I don't feel bad about this. I must be okay. I know better, but in that moment, there's just nothing, because you've taken such an emotional hit. It's like your body's just kind of resetting, and then later on,
Yeah, definitely. The initial reaction, you're like, there's shock. So it's definitely, then it's almost like with time, it's like you're able to see that it's like the reality hits in, and it's more clear what is happening. But I think it's a way that our emotions are protecting us, like through it's giving us through it says, little steps to help us, so that way we don't go and not be able to function, especially when then you have to worry about the funeral.
Oh my
You got
gosh.
the family arriving. You can't just like somebody has to do the work, and it's usually the family. Is that you gotta take care of all that. So I think that happened to us. Like we took care of everything, and then like a month later we were like, what just happened? But we would do like WhatsApp, we do group chats with my siblings and my family, and it really helps having support. And that's good that you did the therapy, because that's very you were able to process your feelings, and especially when you don't really feel much at that time when you're in shock. It's like it's not really clear yet.
Yeah. I was as prepared as you can be, and also I had to take care of myself too, because I have my own, look, I'm fine, but I'm fine because I do a lot of therapy and work on my well-being. But that doesn't stop I have this suicidal ideation pattern that happens every day, and it's just like, I'm okay. I'm going to keep working on it. But if my brother's in danger, I have to make sure that I'm okay too. And just sorting that out and letting that be okay. I mean, all this grief stuff and all of this counseling and the other things that we have to do, I take it super seriously, because I know that someone has been in my step before, and then they've advanced, and then they've advanced, and they've gone to the point of no return. I don't want to. I want to take this as seriously as I do anything else in my life. We have our physical well-being, our mental well-being, our spiritual well-being, and they all require. I mean, I'm 52. I'm not the oldest guy in the world, but at my age, these things all require steady maintenance now. And I can't encourage anybody enough. Definitely look. If the therapy isn't working for you, get different therapy, try different therapy. It could be anything. You don't stop because one thing doesn't work. You keep going, because if you don't do it, then you're not maintaining your well-being in a holistic way.
Yeah, and then also, like, if you're trying to help other people, and then you don't have a strong foundation on yourself, you're feeling, you're not taking care of yourself, like, with therapy or emotionally, then it's like you're not able to really help other people if you're not strong in your own foundation. Like, it's the same idea when we fly, and they say for the oxygen, like, make sure that you put it on you first and then your baby. It's the same idea, because it happens in a second. If you put it on the baby, and then something happens to you, who's gonna take care of the baby? Like, it's just like, I think I always will tell my patients, I will talk about that, because it's something that we all experience in the airplane. They tell you, okay, make sure oxygen, you gotta do first, and then the next person. And so I think that is definitely, many people could relate to comments that we hear every time in the flights.
Let's talk about acting. We've done enough death and dying, and
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, tell us. No, go
I
ahead.
have a movie that I finished a movie during the summer.
Okay.
Eye for Eye is a Western, and it takes place in 1800s. It was really good because I was able to do like, the beautiful gowns, and it was a strong female role, and I was the lead, and she was like very, independent. She had a young child, and she had to fight for so much to basically have her goals met. So I enjoyed working in Montana, and there wasn't any like there were no, I couldn't use my phone at all because we were like in the middle of nowhere. So it definitely felt like I was in 1800s,
Yeah.
with no internet, nothing.
Yeah.
And so, like you would see outside, like bunnies running around, which that was my favorite part. You see like coyotes or just all these animals and horses. It was definitely, the vibe was there. I'm like, oh my god, it's like, so you're surrounded by mountains and trees. It was a beautiful set. And then I have my premiere next week, in Arizona, and it will be released this year. But once I get the information where it's gonna be released, I let you know, so you can, maybe we can do another interview, or I can just send you that.
Love it.
And yeah, and then I did, I'm doing season 2 of Tale of Tales, and it's
Yes.
a drama action thriller. And my character is a very complex character, a lot of emotional baggage and changes that she goes through, a lot of testing, things that she has to really like risk and take action. So I really enjoy those type of characters. Her choices are not very socially acceptable, but when you work on a character, you have to, you have to remove your personal judgment. You have to
Yeah.
just be creating the character, and that's what I did with that one. But it's definitely, it's a good, it's about life and the struggles, and people trying to survive to make it through. And some people take the path that is not the best, but it's best at the moment. And that's
Mhm.
what it's all about. At
Yeah.
least you're doing something.
Yeah. Yeah. And if nobody else tells you, you're remarkable. I mean, look, you're academically excellent. You did something as challenging as work in hospice. And would it surprise anybody to hear that Blanca also writes and produces some of her own work? And I'm sure there's more of that coming. So what are you working on now that you are doing? Because you don't say.
Well, I've been pitching my book to some studios and some producers. I want to make it into a movie or a show. I think that it has potential, and I'm okay with, definitely producing it, and also I could be an actress in it. But the main thing, I just feel I want a wider audience to have a story that it has a lot of, layers. You have an immigrant family, you have poverty and, education, a child that wants to change the life and then to go to school. That's like very inspiring for parents to see that. Okay, I want my child to see that one.
Yeah.
So it definitely like, targets a wider, audience, and that's what I've been pitching to some of the producers. And so that's my objective when I wrote the book. I thought, okay, I want to also make it into a movie or a show.
Yeah. Well, then I'm positive that that's going to happen because whatever
Oh,
you
thank
set
you.
your mind on, I mean, you're welcome, but that's just what you do. I mean, you live in Washington, are going to school, have multiple jobs, and are still getting acting gigs. I mean, that kind of desire. Jaime Escalante, the ganas, like you cannot let it go. You will not be defeated.
No. No, I definitely had to fight for my voice, my freedom, my independence growing up, because I also had a traditional father. So at home, I had to deal with that, where I just couldn't really relate to his. I didn't want to follow the family tradition of, you just leave the house when you're getting married.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that I want to leave the house to go to college or do something with my life.
Uh-huh.
So I had to. I shared that in my book about like having a machista father,
Hmm.
someone that he believed the woman belonged in the kitchen, didn't go belong in the school setting, or only marriage.
Yeah.
And so I had to really fight for my freedom,
How do you
at
how do you
home.
how do you blend that though? I mean, look, you have a dad who's a strong-willed person. He takes and risks it all, and him and his wife come across the border, and with no real like not a plan anybody would say that's the way to do it. Like, like, no, we're gonna
Yeah.
get it done. So you clearly get some of your resolution from him, but you also probably had a quinceanera. It's like, so you want some of the tradition, but you also be like, hey, listen, I'm also going to go get a master's degree. Probably the first person in your family to get a master's degree.
Yeah, I was the first one to get a master's and also to go to college. And I did do a quinceañera, and it was funny how it happened because we were living in a trailer at that
Yeah.
time. And a quinceañera is like a wedding, except you don't get married. Like, but it takes like the planning a year. You gotta do the dance routines, the dresses for the girls. Like you have about 12 girls, 12 boys, same clothes, and it's a big expense. So when I told my mom, like, oh, I want to do a quinceañera, but we didn't have any money. We never had a bank account because we
Yeah.
had no money. We were paycheck to paycheck basically. My father made $4 an hour for a family of 7, so
Jeez.
it's like a quinceañera would be like, yeah, how that possible? So what I did made it as a fundraiser. I asked people that I knew, like, hey, I'm planning to do a quinceañera. Would you like to donate
Yes.
my rosary? Would you like to donate my high heels? Would you like to donate the flowers, or I will have like 3 people if they could donate for the salon, because you gotta have a salon, you gotta have the church, you gotta have like the limo.
Story.
I did it like that, and so then I told my mom, okay, my quinceañera is set. It's gonna be in 6 months. It's gonna be. How did you do that? Who's gonna pay for it? I'm like, oh, everything's set. And I think there was only one person that didn't deliver, that didn't bring the. She was supposed to bring like the the knife for the cake, and she didn't. And so we were using a fork to cut my cake, and my cake was like so many layers. It was like like a big wedding cake. It had like 5 big layers, and then on the sides with little dolls. It definitely didn't look low budget.
Yeah.
And even my dress, I spent the whole year making payments. The sweet lady from the place that sold me the dress, she's never done that before, but I said, I really want this pink dress, but I cannot afford it. Can I give you payments every week? I'm working. And she's like, I don't do that. And then she really and then she called me and said, like, look, you can do that. I will let you, and I will give her like $20 every week or something.
Yeah.
By the time it was time to pick up the dress, it was already like time for the quinceañera. And so definitely there were, that was impossible to do because of the money, but I still did it, and it looked. I had family that flew from California, and they all stayed in the little trailer, but we had a great time. Like we had like 30 people in the trailer. It's
My brother's wife is from Veracruz, and so I'm very familiar with the, I'll call it a crowded house scenario. Like there could be 20 plus people in the house, and that might not sound like a lot to a Mexican family, but it's a lot to a lot of other families to have 20 people. People sleeping here and there, and they're playing cards in that corner. All these different things are going on in the same place. I love it. I mean, it can be a lot, but I love it. Oh, and by the way, in the backyard playing dominoes or working, like there's all these things going on. You guys did it in a trailer. That's incredible.
Well, they stayed in the trailer, but actually I had it in a salon.
Okay.
Like we went to the church, and then we went to the salon, and it was decorated really nice. I did like my dance routine with the trainer. Actually, she just messaged me that she wants to get my book and on Facebook, yeah. But she trained us for like 6 months for free.
Yeah.
We were like my 24 friends. You have like 7, like half guys, half girls, and they were like my closest friends. And we danced the routine. It's about like 20 minutes. It took a lot of practicing, like every Sunday or sometimes twice a week. We would be training to perform in the middle, like during my dance routine. So it definitely, like I know that we cooked all the food in the little trailer. The little trailer, just to give you an idea, it was 2 small rooms, a bathroom that is the size of the airplane, and the kitchen we didn't have actually much of water. Like it will always be broken. I have this in the book and how like crazy stuff. But we managed it. It's like everything worked so well. Nobody got sick from the food. I had like all my aunts they're very good cooks. They arrived to help. And it was like a full kitchen, a small little kitchen, and we all carry the food to the salon, like in different cars. It's definitely like I really wanted a quinceañera, so that's I was very happy everybody was able to make that possible. And then more people were having quinceañeras even when they had no budget. So then I would always offer to, oh, I can help you with this, I could help you with that. People started doing that, a lot of helping each other out. But also I think it's also in my culture, like when you have godparents, they help you, like for both baptism, they give you, they also like they buy the outfit for the child. So padrinos and madrinas is like they're like people that sponsor you, and it's you have like an extra connection in your life, because they're like almost like not just friends, but they're like almost like godparents, but not like in a sense like when you're a child and you get a
No, they're
godparent.
active. Yeah, they're active.
Yeah, so it's definitely it's a cultural thing, I believe, that people want to help out. And I'm sure in any culture there's like a plan, a fundraiser, people are willing to help. I mean, we did a car wash too to raise money for the limo.
We're running out of time here, so I want to give you a chance to close up and talk about whatever it is that you want to close up on. I think you're incredible, Blanca. I mean, what you've done and what you continue to do, and the role model that you are. I mean, like you're not super young, but you're so young in terms of like a full life. Like you're just getting going, and look at how much you've done. You're just remarkable, and I just can't say thanks enough for coming on the show and for leading the way that you do. You're really remarkable, and I appreciate you. So I'll let you have the last word and we'll wrap it up.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to just let anyone that is like, reads my book, or just anyone that is listening now, that, if you don't let anyone stop you from reaching your goals. Like, you are the decision maker of your life, and you will have challenges, a lot of problems, but just learn when you have a problem to just, break it down into small parts, so that way it feels more manageable and you don't get discouraged. But also when you make some progress, like reward yourself. I did this, and then yesterday I was a mess, but today I was able to do half a day. Reward yourself, because these are the rewards will help you stay motivated. But if you're hard on yourself, and it's just gonna be harder to stay motivated.
Yeah, no, that's great. Stand by.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much